It is a new day. Light begins to dawn. Rays of life, giving energy, break forth in glorious splendor. It is the dawning of a new day in consciousness. The light of illumination begins to break upon you from within. You are a spiritual being, a light being. You have been endowed with 12 cosmic powers, 12 gifts of light, faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, enthusiasm, release, life. Accept your 12 powers. Burst forth into the dawning of a new way of life. Join with a lively trio, a minister, psychotherapist, and medical doctor, as they discuss healing of the physical, psychological, and spiritual aspects of your whole being. Here is a holistic approach to staying vitally alive and healthy, presented by well-known authors and professionals in their fields.
As a medical doctor, I've seen many patients who have needed great strength and lots of backbone in order to bring about their healing. What do you think about when you think about strength? Well, one of the images that comes to my mind is of a huge, majestic tree. Just think, it started off as a tiny seed, and it took strength just to push up its first shoots above the ground and to become a tiny seedling, and to send its roots down deep into the ground to form a strong foundation. And then over the years, it got bigger and bigger, and its trunk got bigger and stronger, and it put out more branches, and it sunk its roots down in deeper. But as part of its growth, it also encountered storms and high winds and droughts and floods. But by now, it was strong enough to weather the storms, and it was flexible enough that it could bend back and forth. It could bend, but not break. And it was resilient enough to always come back to its center and keep right on growing. Now, eventually, it does reach up by over many years, and it rises to its full height and potential. And then it gives off its own seeds and its own fruits. I like to compare this tree to one of the major systems in our physical body, our spinal cord and our nerves, which is our communications system. So the trunk of a tree is just like this central spine. And the branches and the limbs and the roots of the tree are like all of the nerves in our body that go to every part of our physical form. Just think, we have our own tree of life right in our own physical form. And it's the nature of this tree, of our spine and our nerves, to be strong and steady and stable. So as we grow and evolve and mature, we don't have to be weak or indecisive, to be spineless, as it is said. No, you have the power of strength right within you, and you already have a strong backbone. So for the next half hour of the show, that's what we're going to cover: how you can develop your power of strength, and how you can use this very special power to strengthen your spine and to steady your nerves, so that you too can reach your full potential, and you can bring forth many wondrous and marvelous fruits on the tree of your life.
Have you ever thought about writing a book, or perhaps you know someone who has? Well, this is a seed of an idea. And my husband and I had the seed of an idea that grew inside of us, and so we put a book together. And I also chose to agent the book myself, which means that you send out a lot of these proposals, and then hopefully you get a response back from the publisher. Well, sometimes the responses aren't exactly what you hope they're going to be. They're rejection letters saying thanks, but no thanks. And they say that you're not an author until you can wallpaper a room with those rejection letters. Well, I'll tell you, I was really feeling I was on my way to becoming an author, because I received a lot of those rejection letters. But finally, we received a letter that said, yes, there's a publisher who is interested in our book. Well, we were thrilled. We were just knowing, yes, this was the one. It was the perfect publisher. And so we were celebrating, already in that mode of feeling our success. And then I had a dream. And the dream said to me that the proposal was going to be sent back. And I actually saw this in the dream. Well, my husband and I share quite often our dreams in the morning, and this one I didn't even want to talk about. I just wanted to avoid talking about this dream because it wasn't what I really wanted to see happen. David went to the office before me that morning, and he called me and he said, Gaylynn, I have some bad news for you. He said the proposal has been returned. I said, oh, just like the dream had foretold. I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. Here, all this work, all this effort, all the planning, we thought this was the right one. This was the one that was going to publish the book. I felt so discouraged. I felt so devastated, so disappointed. I was just crying and crying. My dog came over to me, and our pets can be so comforting to us, and they pick up on our emotions and our feelings. And she was right there beside me as I was crying and just feeling completely devastated and doubting myself and wondering why I'd even gotten into this project in the first place. It was a dumb idea. Who was I to think that I could get a book published? And so I had these doubts and fears and these tears that just kept coming. And in that moment, I had this voice inside of me, often called that still small voice. And the voice said to me, make another call. I said, no, I couldn't possibly do that. I feel too raw right now. I feel too vulnerable. No, there's no way. But the voice persisted and said, make another call. So finally I blew my nose. I looked at the list of publishers that I hadn't heard from yet, and believe me, the list was getting pretty small. And I went over to the phone and I made another call. I made a few calls. And finally, on one of those calls, I was able to speak to the senior editor, which is the person that I needed to speak to. And she was very encouraged and interested about the book.
Yes,
and she asked,
great.
could I send the proposal to her right away? I said, absolutely.
Thanks.
And so I did. And Transformative Rituals became a reality. They published the book. And I realized in that moment, it would have been so easy to give up. It would have been so easy to just let the whole thing go in that moment. But I persisted. I was stronger than my fears, and I moved past my doubt, and I made the next call. And so whatever it is that you have in your life right now, my friend, that you would like to do, that dream that you'd like to see made a reality, take the next step. Make the next call. You have the strength within you to do great things. Do it now.
Strength is balance. A well-balanced person is truly strong. Let's look at Robert, how strong he is when he's well-balanced. He's standing on two legs, and I can push him hard and he'll be able to withstand the pressure and stress. But what happens if he stands on only one leg? I can push him over with one finger. So balance is strength. What are some of the ways that we need to be well-balanced? Now remember that this goes for men and women. We're looking at ourselves as whole persons. And we can all have these qualities so that we're well-balanced, strong persons. We look at thought and feeling, conscious and subconscious, work and rest, play, giving and receiving. Carl Jung, the great psychiatrist and well-known explorer of the human spirit and psyche, called them animus and anima. Animus being the male and anima being the female. That is, those female and male principles in every human being, in all of us. We need then to have a strong center so that we can incorporate both sides of our nature, and then we're well integrated and well balanced, like an airplane with two wings. In the East, the yin and the yang is in the Chinese philosophy. These are two interacting energy modes. Yang being the active, and yin being the passive, yang being the bright, the yin being the dark, the positive and the negative. Just as we would today talk about electricity as having to have a positive and a negative polarity in order to work. To be energized and strong, we need to be well balanced. We need to have thought and we need to have feeling. If we are all thought, we'll just be a cold fish analyzing everything and everyone. And if we're all feeling and intuition, we'll probably be off in the clouds somewhere and dreaming, not tracking on what's going on. Sometimes we attribute thought to men and feeling to women, but we all need to have both thought and feeling, intellect and intuition, so that we are a strong person and we have a holistic approach to our lives, that we use all of our capacities to be a strong, well-balanced person.
Our power of strength and stability and steadfastness expresses in our physical body as our spinal cord and our nerves. So what do they do? What is their function? Well, they serve as a communication system that links our brain, our central computer, with all of the other parts of our body. So here we have our brain, and this is a special central computer, and it controls all of the other parts of the body. All of our thoughts and our seed ideas get programmed in and through this brain. But now the brain needs a way to send these messages and this information to the rest of the body. And so what it does is that it conveys them down through nerve tracts and nerves that become the spinal cord that exits from the base of the brain. And when we put this over here on this model, we can see then that the brain is here and the spinal cord goes down through the central part of our bony spine. Now this is our backbone. It's called the spine, but it's also made up of the vertebrae, the bones, and this protects the delicate spinal cord. You can't really see it on this model, but it's inside here, this spinal cord, and it's about this round and this long, goes from the base of the brain down to the lower part of the back. And then coming off of each of these openings in the vertebrae, we have spinal nerves, and these carry nerve impulses, bioelectrical nerve impulses and message out to every part of our body. Now we have many different types of nerves. We have motor nerves that send messages from our brain down to our muscles. And we have autonomic nerves, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nerves that send messages to our internal organs. And then we have sensory nerves. And what these do is convey information from our sense of touch and other senses up our arm, up our body, up our spine, and up to our brain. So you can see we have hundreds and thousands and probably millions of nerve impulses that are going up and down our spine. This is our communications superhighway right in our own physical body. And it needs to be steady, and it needs to be strong and consistent, and it needs to be stable so that we can have that steady flow of information all the way through our body, up to our brain, and from our brain down to the rest of our body. Now, over the years, as I've worked on this strength quality within myself, and as I've counseled many others to do, one of the favorite images I like, one of the statements I like, comes from the Bible in the book of Proverbs. And there it says, "The Lord is a tower of strength." So this is an affirmation and a visualization that we all can use. We can say, "I am a tower of strength." And we can visualize this tower being this column of light that goes all the way up and down our spine. And when we feel this and we see this and we experience this strength, then we can truly say and experience that I am strong and I am steady and I am stable in this light.
The 12 Powers incorporates a universal concept of ourselves as whole beings, which can be found in all spiritual pathways. The Buddha received enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, which represented the tree of life and indicated the deep strength and stability that he demonstrated when he was awakened. In mystical Judaism, the Kabbalah speaks about the mysteries of the tree of life and how we are strengthened by developing our spiritual powers. In the Chinese healing system of acupuncture, there are 12 major meridians or energy channels which convey qi or power throughout every system in the body. In Greek mythology and in many ancient cultures, the 12 powers are often portrayed as figures such as Athena, who represents wisdom and strength. Robert Knapp received his medical degree in 1972 from Upstate Medical School. He has practiced as a holistic physician and studied widely in Eastern and Western healing techniques. Since 1981, he has lectured widely on the 12 powers. He is the co-author of Birth of the Light Body. Dr. David Williamson has a bachelor's degree in religion and philosophy and has taught world religions in Unity Ministerial School. His doctoral work compared and experienced the meditative practices of the East and West. He is the co-author of Transformative Rituals, which gives many practical ways to strengthen the connection to the spirit within. Gaylynn Williamson is a psychotherapist and has blended the beauty of mythology and psychology in her studies and finding the feminine face of the divine. She leads the popular Women's Wisdom Weekends and has helped to create Labyrinths, a prayer and meditation walk. She is co-author of Golden Eggs, Spiritual Wisdom for Birthing Our Lives.
Where do we find our strength? The Hebrew prophet Isaiah said, "In quietness and confidence shall be your strength." How do we develop real strength? By being still, by centering ourselves, listening to the still, small voice within. We've often associated strength with lots of noise, horsepower, force, bigger guns, bigger bombs, bigger cars, louder alarms, bigger muscles. The hero is strong if he says things like, "Step outside," or "Draw," or "Make my day." Our folk heroes along that line are who? Rambo and James Bond. In the Bible, the strong man in this outer way was probably Samson. And there's another conception of strength, however. It's inner strength, quiet strength, stillness, like a deep lake waiting to go through the hydroelectric generator and produce millions and millions of watts of electricity. Quiet, calm, still, yet tremendous energy there. Quiet strength, inner confidence, poise, the ability to be peaceful, not to retaliate when provoked, non-violent strength. And here the folk heroes are people like Gandhi, a little man with great strength of character, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, Rosa Parks, and the strong person of inner strength in the Bible probably would be Jesus. These people say, "Step inside," rather than "step outside." Gandhi took the strategy of nonviolent activism and changed India. He called his strategy of strength Satyagraha, which means truth force. Gandhi called his autobiography Experiments in Truth. He said his aim is to transform conflict rather than to suppress it or explode it into violence. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength.
When things aren't going well in our lives, how can we really stay strong? I had this experience in my own life. We came to this wonderful church in Hollywood, Florida, and we're working here and helping to support the spiritual community to grow. And when we came here, we realized that the church had many challenges before it, had a very large mortgage to pay, and really not quite enough people to make that mortgage payment. And we came here and really were paid very little when we started out. And so I was scared sometimes. I was fearful. I was worried. I was anxious. Perhaps you felt that way at times in your life. And then I had a dream. Our dreams can provide us with a wonderful resource of strength. And I journal my dreams every single night. And in this dream, I heard a voice, and the voice said to me, if anything can possibly go right, it will. Isn't that interesting? Just the opposite of what we usually call Murphy's Law. But this was a higher law, a stronger law that I could really focus on and depend upon. And I knew that the dream was indicating to me that things were going to be all right in our church home, that we were going to grow. And so I shared that with the spiritual community. I said, let's hold this affirmation of truth together. If anything can possibly go right, it will. And we did that. And the church grew, and the people came, and the prosperity flowed. And so, my friend, if you're dealing with a challenge in your life right now, know that within you is the strength that you need to deal with anything that is before you. You have a resilient spirit, a spirit that is able to overcome any challenge. And I ask you to hold this affirmation for yourself. If anything can possibly go right, it will.
When we're feeling strong and stable, when we got a nice flow going in our lives, how do our nerves work? Well, they work wonderfully because they express this strength right into our physical body. Now, what happens when we're feeling weak and indecisive or ambivalent or like we got more than we can handle in our lives? How do our nerves respond? Well, now they may begin to develop some symptoms or an actual physical disorder or disease. So, for example, people will come in and they'll say, boy, my nerves are shot or they're just unsteady. And they'll point to their neck up here and they'll say, I feel this pain up in the back of the neck in the area of my spine. And then it'll radiate down the nerves, comes out here from the spinal nerves, and it'll go down the arm. And they'll feel this tingling or burning sensation. Other times when they're having troubles holding up, if you will, being strong, then they'll report difficulties down their spine, here in the center of the back. And you can almost watch their posture. They'll come in this way. They got the weight of the world hanging on them, and they're having troubles being strong enough to hold up. Now, sometimes they'll come in, and this is probably the most common one that we all feel. They'll have discomfort in the low back. They'll have pain and inflammation down here and all of these nerves that come out from the low part of the spine and go down the sciatic nerve to the low part of the leg. So what are we supposed to do when we have these things? And it happens to all of us. Well, first of all, always remember to use the best of all of the various physical remedies. See your doctor. Take some extra B vitamins. Go to your chiropractor. Get an adjustment. Get a massage. Do some stretching exercise to let go of this tension and to strengthen yourself. But at the same time, always focus in on your power of strength. This is your real power, your strongest power to heal your spinal cord and nerves. And one of the ways that we all can do this is to use visualization, our mind power. Here is where we should put our central energy. So in our meditation, we can go outside and we can look up inwardly to the sky above us, feel that bright sun above us, that powerful, strong sunlight, and it comes down from above and it enters into our brain. And then it begins to flow down our spine, down our neck, and it stimulates it and it strengthens it, and it strengthens our inner resolve. And it flows down the spine gradually. You can visualize it and sense it and feel it building its energy into the body. And finally, it comes all the way down the spine and out all of the nerves, out the nerves to the arms, to the nerves to the rest of the internal part of the body, and the nerves down the legs. And when we know this, when we feel this, now we are strong And now our spinal cord and our nerves are healed.
You have the backbone. You can strengthen and heal your tree of life, your spinal cord and nerves. Strength is balance. Be well balanced and you will be a strong person. Be resilient. Take the next step. Make the call. The strength is there to support you now. You find your strength from within yourself by confidently turning to your own inner source of strength. Follow your dreams and be strengthened. If anything can possibly go right, it will.
Phil Jackson, former coach of the Chicago Bulls, is a meditator. As he relates in his book, Sacred Hoops, the Bulls under Phil Jackson with Michael Jordan and company had silent practices. It serves as a centering experience, concentrating, gaining awareness, getting in the flow or the zone as it's been called in that experience. In the same way, we can become still, become more aware, meditate, center, focus. We can find our strength in life.
And in healing, the same is true, David. Today we're finding new ways to treat our nervous system. And this comes out of this inner inspiration when we're strong and we're centered and we're willing to look for something new, for something different in our healing. So maybe it's acupuncture or magnetic therapy. Now we integrate it in with the best of what is already in existence, but we have the strength to experiment, to try new things.
That's right, Robert. And I have this plant here, and if this plant of mine always stayed in this same pot, eventually, what's going to happen to it? It's going to get root bound, and guess what? It already is. And so we need to have the courage and the strength to stretch. So know right now for yourself that you have the courage to change. You have the strength to experiment, to try something different, perhaps that you've never tried before. You are a person of great strength.